Right people, so it seems everyone is focused on the shiny new Pro models coming this year, but you might remember there's actually two other models Apple releases every single year, and unlike last year where Apple literally just gave us a repackaged iPhone 13 with slightly different colors, we are actually getting some decent upgrades this time around for iPhone 15, so of course, let's delve into it. So all this information comes from Apple leak guru Mr. Mark Gurman, who calls this exclusive tidbits, but it's basically just a recap of leaks we've already heard about from other sources. We begin with the cameras on the back of the device. This is basically the one thing Apple updates annually without fail, and this year's no different. Now exactly what is changing, you may ask? Well, Gurman, as per usual, pretty vaguely says there should be a major improvement because who'd have guessed the new iPhone is better than the last one? Wow, what a ridiculous concept. And by the way, would like to remind you guys, like this video and subscribe for more content like this. It would be appreciated. Now, thankfully, we don't have to rely on Gurman's cryptic tidbits because based on previous reports, we can be sure we're getting a brand new 48 megapixel main sensor on the regular models. Now, I know what you're thinking, that's not really brand new, right? Because Apple's literally chucking the 14 Pro main sensor in this, and well, you're actually wrong. It's worse. You see, Apple can't just be generous and give the cheap iPhone, even though it's $800, but anyways, the cheap iPhone, the same exact sensor as last year's phones, so whilst it is 48 megapixels, it will be physically smaller than the sensor on the Pros. For those who care about the raw specs, the Pro models will continue to have a 1x1.28 inch sensor, but the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus are going to have a smaller stacked CMOS image sensor that's going to be 1x1.5 inches. This actually explains why Jeff Pugh went on about this new stacked layout for the main lens on iPhone 15, and of course me being the guy who knows absolutely nothing about cameras, thought this would be some kind of brand new feature that improves the sensor, but no, it's a new sensor that's worse on purpose. How fun. I'll be honest though, out of all the possible compromises Apple could make with the regular phones, this one actually isn't all too bad. Yes, the sensor's smaller on this compared to the Pros, but it's still much larger than the one on the iPhone 14, specifically 27% larger, so yes, that is a major upgrade. And the great thing about this being 48 megapixels, even if it's smaller, is that it should give these base models much better optical zoom. Right now, of course, if you try and zoom in on anything on the base models, it's just a pixelated mess. You're better off using a calculator, so yes, these base models should finally get the 2x crop the iPhone 14 Pro got. Since you might have forgotten this, but Apple gave us back the 2x option on the 14 Pro by cropping into the massive main sensor. And so yes, as someone with a 14 Pro Max, I can assure you guys, this is about as good as having a telephoto and is actually better than the 3x dedicated telephoto lens. So if we see this on iPhone 15, this 100% makes up for the lack of a telephoto and is gonna be quite a big upgrade. By the way, there were rumors Sony were having production issues with this sensor, but now Ko says, forget about that. They've magically managed to double capacity, so yeah, that's great news, guys. And this camera upgrade alone makes the iPhone 15 way more exciting than last year's snooze fest. But that's not the only change to note, because we now come to the design, and considering this is a super cycle, it means we're getting the first new chassis change in 3 years. We've had the iPhone 4 inspired flat sides since iPhone 12, but iPhone 15 should be a lot curvier. Now, when I initially heard about this, I was super pumped because I thought this would bring us back to the glorious iPhone 10 days, but that excitement quickly came crashing down because when we got the first CADs of these phones, it basically looks the same, if I'm being honest. It's such a subtle curve that I doubt's gonna make a difference, and actually if you think about it, using an iPhone 14 in a case there's already a subtle curve around the corners. So yes, I wish the curve was more drastic. I really have had enough of the flat sides that dig into your hands. I'm pretty sure someone's hand actually started bleeding because of how sharp the flat sides were. So yes, rounded sides for the win, guys. I'm really hoping we go back to those days in the near future. At least on the front, there's going to be a change you actually notice, because after 6 years, 6 long years, the notch is dead. Yes, the iPhone 15 finally is going to incorporate the island we saw with the 14 Pros. Now, I do want to say, after owning a 14 Pro for nearly a year, I can conclude that the island is basically a gimmick for the most part. I've interacted with it once or twice, and yeah, I definitely fell for the Apple marketing hype because it really does not do that much. Yes, there's some fancy animations, but that's it. However, it does make these phones look different from the front after years and years and years of the notch. And so if you're someone who wants to flex, you have the new iPhone, you can actually do that with the iPhone 15 because it's actually going to look somewhat different. Another smaller change we've heard about that's long overdue is a frosted back. This was introduced all the way back with the iPhone 11 Pro, and it just looks a lot nicer and is much easier to keep clean. And a glossy back quickly becomes a grimy mess, to be honest. So yes, I do like this change a lot, and there's actually been a lot of conflicting information regarding which colors we're getting, with some saying we could see an iPhone XR blue that gets me tingling in the pelvis region, if you know what I mean. But also there's some reports regarding a yellow, which I'm not a fan of, and so yes, I'm hoping that yellow report is false. I want the blue so bad. Anyways, the other colours we could see is a hot pink that looks quite nice, and also mint green alongside the typical black, white, and of course product reds. Oh sorry, not black or white, because Apple is clearly too fancy to give us basic shades, so they're gonna give us yet another round of midnight and starlight, which I absolutely despise. Coming to performance, we technically have an upgrade here compared to iPhone 14, but unfortunately Apple is continuing last year's tradition of using the previous generation A-series SoC in the new iPhone. So this year it's going to be the A16. Now I say unfortunately because before the iPhone 14, all of the new models, even the regular models, would get the latest SoC inside, and especially this year with the A17 on the Pros being based on the brand spanking new 3nm process that's going to give them insane battery gains and also performance gains. That would have been nice on the regular models. However, we know Timothy loves a good upsell, and so yes, they're gonna get away with recycling last year's chips again with this year's base models. And I guess for regular consumers, they don't care about this, but still, I hope we go back to the good old days where Apple was kind enough to include the newest chip in the new iPhone. Oh, how I miss those days. Anyways, there should not be any change RAM-wise. It's still gonna be 6 gigs, which is plenty if I'm being honest. This isn't a crappy Android phone that's unoptimized and needs something ridiculous like 16 gigs. Now we come to the pièce de résistance. I think that's how you say it. I'm sure I'm butchering it, but anyways, you get what I'm saying. This will be the upgrade people actually care about, and it's USB-C. So the European government has finally got Apple to wake up and ditch the Lightning port after using it for over 10 years. And pretty much everyone's looking forward to this, including my mum of all people, because she was actually complaining about her iPad Air and iPhone not using the same charger, so real actual consumers are gonna care about this. And that's about it for the changes we're getting with the regular models. And now I know people are gonna say this is just a reskinned iPhone 14 Pro, and you're not wrong, to be honest, it kinda is. But unlike last year where you were absolutely better off getting the iPhone 13 Pro for less over the iPhone 14, this year I would argue that you could justify going with the 15 instead. There's gonna be USB-C, we've heard about possible battery upgrades that Gurman doesn't mention but still could pan out, and also the 15 is likely gonna be cheaper than the 14 Pro outside of the US, since remember the 14 Pro came with an insane retail price, and so it's still probably going to be floating around £1,000 or euros, when discounted. And so assuming Apple doesn't give markets outside the US another price hike, which I'm really hoping is not the case, please Timothy, I beg you, I can't handle another price increase. Please keep the base models exactly the same as last year. But anyways, as long as pricing stays the same, the iPhone 15 should still be £200 or €200 cheaper. And so yes, if you don't care about 120Hz, which I'll be honest, I don't care about, you're not missing out on much. These phones are actually pretty decent value. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching.